Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plot Pilled podcast. This is a brand new podcast that myself, and my sister have decided to start up. Um, and we're going to kind of get into why we're starting it up in the first place, because, that's what we do in first episodes, right? So, I guess we'll give a little bit of introductions and then kind of get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here. So, I'll start. Hi, I'm Dallan. I've been doing. We're gonna kind of like tell how we relate to stories and how we relate to writing and everything like that. So, hi, I'm Dallan. I relate to stories because I've been honestly consuming them since I was little, as I'm sure a lot of people have done in their childhood. I mean, everyone grew up with Disney movies and uh, children's shows, and even though some children's shows are very simplistic, they still have stories and writing. Like, there's effort that goes into them. So it's just kind of a commonality that we all share. So I grew up on deep stories, though, because I grew up watching like Lord of the Rings and you know uh, fantasy books and everything like that, because I grew up with older siblings that shared those stories with me. I've also been really into acting, so I'm very familiar with writing as a whole, especially to storytelling through scripts, and all the work that goes into that, because there's a lot. And then I'm also a big fan of interactive storytelling as well, such as tabletop RPGs, which I run and play in, improv, anything like that. I absolutely love. I love improvisational storytelling. It's one of my favorite types of storytelling, and it's very underrated, in my opinion. Improv needs to be used more in less comedic senses, in my opinion, because sometimes you get some of the most dramatic things imaginable when you are in the heat of the moment. Improv, uh, it's something else. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from with writing, and I'm also trying to finish a couple books at the moment. Um, Trying to kind of trial and error my way through it. So I'll pass it over to my sister Jordan for the introduction for her.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I am not a natural at talking like my brother is, so y'all can bear with me, the one person that might be listening. So I'm Jordan. I have been writing stories since I was in middle school. Like most people who write, nothing published at the moment. Hopefully that'll change at some point. I also have a degree in creative writing, which don't put too much weight into that. You don't need a degree in anything to have an opinion on it, but it helps, I think, kind of ground how important stories are to me and how dedicated I am to stories and writing and entertainment in general. I don't know. Yeah.
That's it.
What else?
I mean,
I've been writing. I've been
you've been consuming stories as well.
Right. I've been an avid reader since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think The Hobbit was my first big one, and then probably Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And then Wheel of Time, and then from there it kind of exploded. Lately have been in a bit of a reading slump, which is something I think we'll probably get into later when we really start talking about why we started this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's...
All right. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was a pretty good introduction, I would say.
That was me.
So let's talk about kind of why the two of us, these two random siblings, decided to start up this podcast. And it's for a variety of reasons. First and foremost is that writing has kind of been on the decline lately, in terms of depth and creativity.
Yes.
I think those are the two main ones that have been lacking lately.
An emotional impact.
That too.
A lot of the soul.
Emotional connection as well. Like emotional
Right.
impact. I mean, you have to have emotional impact to have, or sorry, you have to have emotional connection to have emotional impact.
Right. But just a lot of the soul has kind of, which, like I just mentioned, the reading slump, and that's part of why is just I read stuff or I watch stuff, and it's almost like writers are just. And I'm not saying writers today suck, but they try to hit these beats, which we're gonna do a whole podcast episode on this crap later. But they try to hit these beats that they've been told by everybody and their cousin that has a freaking computer that has a freaking opinion on writing or that wants to regurgitate opinions on writing. They have these beats that they feel like they need to hit, and it's just made it so dead and formulaic and boring. And my god, I can predict everything that's going to happen, even if I can't quite predict how it's going to happen. I can tell you how a freaking story is going to end, because there's no risk taking right now. There's not very many people out there who are willing to break that mold and go outside of it. There are a few, but there's not that many.
Yeah.
Sorry, I totally cut you off.
Oh, no, please, that's what this is for.
We'll hit our flow eventually.
Yeah,
we are actually very highly entertaining when we're talking to each other.
Yes. No, I
think. According to our mother.
This is true. Yeah, according to our mom. But, like, no, I completely agree with what you're saying. It's like, well, I think it's and this is another thing that we'll get into, is it's mostly Western storytelling that has been hitting this real bad bump lately. And, you know, not to say that Eastern storytelling is perfect. They certainly have their flaws and their misses. There's multiple examples of anime and manga, by the way. She and I are massive anime and manga fans. We love stories that are told in that medium. One Piece, which will be brought up a lot, is one of our favorite series of all time in terms of writing and world building. It's
character.
In character writing. It is fantastic. And we're one of the people that will staunchly... We're two of, like, the biggest... I feel like the biggest defenders of the length of One Piece, which we'll probably bring that up in another episode altogether, kind of talking about the criticisms that One Piece faces and how some of them might be just, but also a lot of them are just people too lazy to watch the show. But yeah, no, I mean, I've been watching stuff and reading stuff all my life, and I remember when I would watch something and it was brand new, and I would be like, wow, that's something that I've never seen before. The movie that comes to mind right now is Interstellar. That was a movie that I went to go watch, and it was a story that I had never really seen before, and I haven't seen since, honestly. It is one of my favorite movies, but we'll get into that later on in this episode, as to why it's one of my favorite movies. But there's other stories out there that I absolutely love because they bring something new to the table. But then you have action movie number 506, and it's like, well, I know exactly, and I know what a lot of people say. It's like, well, they're popcorn movies. You're not supposed to think too hard about it. But, like, am I supposed to care? Because, like, that's the biggest issue for me, is, like, I don't... Yeah, you can have these great action pieces, but if I don't care about the character that is going through it, or the characters that are going through it, then those great action pieces mean nothing to me. And that is one of the main reasons that we're talking about in this podcast, is how that writing and how that connection to the audience, and sort of like not exactly, because it's hard to I see scripts as a conversation with not just characters between themselves, but also a conversation to the audience as well, with the audience. You're supposed to feel and empathize with these characters, whatever they're going through, and a lot of people seem to be failing on that nowadays. Anything that you want to add?
No, I mean, I agree with that, and I don't, like, action is a very specific genre, too. Normally you are there to see the big chase scenes and the fight scenes with too many cuts so you can't tell what the hell is going on screen, and, you just want to see the bad guy go out a window. So, like, I get that, but that, I don't know, that lack of character development and that lack of attention to any sort of emotional impact or effort, I guess, is just starting to creep into other genres too. And I don't think it's coming from the action genre specifically.
No,
I just think that it's coming. It's
pulled
coming,
a random genre.
Right. Well, it's coming from a lot of places, and that's something that we'll be getting into. But it's just, yeah, there are problems.
Yeah.
There are problems, and then, I mean, to kind of get back on track too with why we're starting the podcast, is the other side of this also is we're also really sick and tired of current entertainment criticism online. I think it's
criticism in quotation marks,
aka telling people what they want to hear so you get the views. Being politically divisive even when you really don't need to be, and that goes for both sides, or all sides,
yeah.
Everybody. But also just this algorithmically driven, criticism that it has. You almost can't trust the people criticizing entertainment even anymore, because they have figured out what they have to say in order to get views, and views equals money, and that's what they're in there for. So we're tired of that too.
We're kind of done with the inflammatory, for lack of a better term, shit slinging that has been going on between it's mainly two sides. It's mainly two sides.
Let's all be real. We all know who it is, too.
Yeah, we all know who it is. But, like, nothing takes me out of when I'm watching, like, a media analysis video, right? Nothing takes me out of it more than some random political jab in the middle of the analysis. Like, that doesn't belong there. It shouldn't belong there. It should be, you're talking about the writing, the story, the acting, whatever it is that makes up whatever you're critiquing, right? In my opinion, that doesn't belong in criticism, and I am one of the staunch opposers towards all art is political. Art is not political. Art is what you make it, and if you make your art apolitical, it's going to be apolitical, like that, and no one can really tell you otherwise. And it's also on the writer, 100%. The writer is the god of their story. At the end of the day, that's what it is, and you can't tell a writer, oh, well, this was obviously represent. No, it wasn't. No. Not if that writer was not meaning to. It's not. Then in that case, it's not representing that specific thing in our real world. And it's also just a lack of escapism. But I'll turn that over to you.
No, for those of you who have ever taken a literary theory class, we are not supporters of the death of the author essay. I think that's bullshit. The author wrote it. The author created it. I don't care what you bring to it. I don't care what you think you read in it or analyze it. All of that's coming from you. And you have people have every right to have their opinions and to read whatever they want to into it.
Mm-hmm.
But when the author says, no, that wasn't my intention, no, that's not what I was doing, that should be the end of it. Now, you can keep talking about it if you want. You can keep saying, well, this is what I take from it. Okay, well, that's fine. That's, a subjective reading on it, and that's... I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem when people start trying to tell the author what the author meant. And so, no, death of the author is bullshit. In my opinion.
No.
I do not subscribe to this concept that stories are living things that are owned by anyone who reads them and picks them up.
Mm-hmm.
No.
No,
I'm sorry. They're not.
They're that person's property. They're just distributing it to you for your entertainment and consumption. Like, it's
just like that person created it. Yeah. That person put the work into it.
Mm-hmm.
As someone who, again, has been writing for years and struggling to create things of quality. Like, I know how much pain goes into that, and I'm sorry if you don't go through that, you don't have ownership over it. And that's another thing too, though. Is like, I also think though the authors or just creators in general need to take a step back from fandom and just stay out of that space. It's not for you as the creator. It's for the fans.
No, yeah.
And if the fans want to have their theories and run, like, I don't have a problem with that. That's totally fine. You can have your theories. You can have your debates. You can argue with each other. You can bitch at each other. You can do whatever you want. I don't think the creator should be involved in any of that. Just stay out of it. It's not...
even if it's to tell one side they're wrong and the other side they're right.
No,
that was totally my intention. Like, if it was, right? Mm-hmm. That was 100% my intention to come off that way, right? You should not be even involved. Now, if you're like...
I wouldn't, personally, get involved. Like, if someone corners you at a con...
Or, like, if you're in an interview, right?
Right, or if you're in an interview, so what does this mean and this whatever? Then I guess that's up to you at that point. Yeah,
that's up to you. But could just, at that point, you could be like, well, if they want to take it that way, they can.
Right, exactly. The way I wrote it, this is what I meant.
Yeah, this is what I meant. But it's, it's words on a paper, and it's going to be seen in different ways. Mm-hmm. But no, that was my original intent. And, that has to be a statement of fact, solid, and concrete. Like, this was my intent, and that's it.
Right, that's the end of that.
You can't be swayed from it, like that, or swayed from it, or anything like swayed. You can't be swayed from it or anything like that. Like, that's concrete, and that's canon at that point. Mm-hmm. People can have, their headcanons, and that's what headcanons are literally for. But, it's funny, because headcanons contradict Death of the Author in almost every way, because it's there's the canon, that's what the writer wrote, and then there's the headcanon, which is what the fans come up with.
Right, which I think is the best balance.
Yes.
Your headcanons acknowledge the fact that the original source material is not, in fact, the thing that you have in your head. Mm-hmm. It's, it's separate, it's different.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good balance, but I think a lot of people have just lost track of that lately, to the point where everyone just gets a little too clingy with their favorite stories and their favorite characters, and it's there was just that thing with the digital circus thing where Ragatha versus Jax.
There's a huge thing going on with the digital circus crowd, with that, and listen, I don't know what's going through Gooseworks' head. I don't know if she's coming off the way that I'm reading into it, and I'm not going to presume to know.
Right.
Right? But how I see it, it's one way, but then other people are saying it a different way, and that's okay. Yeah. We're allowed to both be right or wrong. that's
right.
And that's another thing about this whole media analysis and why it's kind of gone downhill, is that it's turned into an us or them situation when media is kind of supposed to be taken as however you look at it because you're the observer. Now that comes up the whole debate of subjectivity and objectivity. Is can art be objectively bad? I believe that it can.
Yes.
I believe it can.
It 100% can. I'm sorry. It can.
But you can subjectively like it.
Right. You can like it even if it sucks. That's fine. You're
that
allowed to do that.
100% okay.
And it doesn't say anything about you that you like something that sucks.
But the problem with the objectivity versus subjectivity argument is that people twist it into being logic versus emotion.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. Objectivity and subjectivity are inherently tied to logic and emotion, but they don't go they're not mutually exclusive, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other, right? It's something can be objectively one way but also subjectively another way, meaning that you can't just discount someone's emotions towards something even if you subjectively objectively think that it's bad, right? Or feel that action was wrong. And that brings up a whole thing of character morality and how people get way too fucking gung-ho about that.
Right.
It just did. God, when we get to that episode, that is gonna be where I am gonna explode.
There'll be some rants.
Yeah, but media analysis has just declined heavily, and it's turned into do you trust the audience score or do you trust the critic score, and which one is right and which one is wrong? And it's well, how about we all admit that we're all stupid and that we that we all have biases, right, in certain things, and at that point just admit to yourself that you have that bias and that's gonna affect how you view something. It just is. I know a lot of people don't like Hell of a Boss or Has Been Hotel. I personally like it because it strikes a certain chord with me, and it's funny. I find it subjectively funny. I know other people don't like it and don't like the humor for one reason or another. But then the problems come up with saying, well, you're wrong for liking this. No one's wrong for liking anything. Unless
it's illegal, illicit material.
Yeah, unless it's
then you are very wrong.
Yeah, and then you're very wrong. But for media, you're not wrong for liking something.
No, for perfectly legal.
Yeah, media.
Legal media.
You're not wrong for liking it. And yeah, that's just a big thing for me, is that whole objectivity and subjectivity debacle.
But I feel like that whole debate is just a way to say I'm right and you're wrong, and therefore you need to shut up, and my opinion is the one that is correct because I am the one being logical and objective and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Which we could go into the trend and the people who make that argument, but we won't do that.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Those particular people might annoy the shit out of me enough to where I'm all right, it be on, let's go.
Well, we are planning on putting one of their movies on blast, one of their short films on blast.
Well, we have to watch it first.
Yeah, we need.
So,
we need to watch it.
If it's a good candidate for that.
Everything that I've heard, and again, this is a bias, but everything that I've heard is that it's not great.
It's a yikes.
And the clips that I've seen of it is that it's not great.
No, it's a yikes.
Yeah. It's oof. Yikes.
Yeah, that just, okay, we're gonna get off track. If we go off on that, we're gonna be here for like 3 hours ranting
this is fair.
Because we've done that before. We've been in the car for 3 hours before and ranted about that exact subject. So yeah, let's save that one for another time. Sorry, it's dry here.
It is dry.
And I've been in a hospital setting all day, so.
Yeah, fair. Nothing's wrong with her. It's.
No, I have a beautiful little doggy. She's actually not little. She sleeps.
Who is passed
She is
out.
passed out. We were at the oncologist all day.
Face.
I think she's gonna be fine, but
yeah.
big scare there.
Yeah.
But oh yeah, look at that apple.
Yeah, she is. She can barely open her eyes right now.
So she is with us today, but she
Yeah.
is almost comatose.
Yeah, quite close to being so.
So yeah, I think that covers most of the reasons why we're starting it, though. But the other huge reason we're starting it is because we love stories,
and we want to analyze them in our way, in like not the correct way, right? But in our way, which is apolitical.
Yeah, I wanna stay out of
stay out of politics
as much as we can.
Keep it out.
I'm so tired of it.
Unless it's lazy writing, and it's obviously pushing politics, and we see it as lazily pushing politics, then we will bring it up.
There's plenty of crap that does that, but most of that I put down and I either don't watch it or I don't read it.
Exactly. I don't wish to watch it or read it. Like,
no, I have better things to do with my time.
I have better things to watch and read.
Yes. Now, there are also good stories out there that will slip in some political view.
Yeah.
Wherever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, well, you know what? At the end of the day, that's the creator's prerogative. If that's the view what do I want to say? How do I want to say that? Like, everyone comes from somewhere, right? And everyone has biases and opinions and perspectives and viewpoints and everything. And that's going to color what you do. So it's like, if that's what's coloring this person's book, show, movie, whatever, then, like, okay, whatever. It's not like they're preaching it at me. It's just there.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me quite as much as something that is created for the sole purpose of pushing a political agenda. But that kind of crap is just stuff that we probably won't talk about because I don't consume it. I don't read it. I don't watch it.
I don't care.
If I think it's gonna be that, I put it down.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Or I turn the TV off and I walk away. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to be preached at. So we probably won't get into much of that, honestly. No. So apolitical, focused on what makes a good story. Yeah.
We also want to talk about how people have gotten very formulaic in terms of their writing. And there's a good reason for that. And I'll let Jordan kind of expand upon that.
Well, we were going to do a whole episode on
this. But kind of a sneak peek.
I mean, I mentioned it earlier.
Yeah.
It's the internet's fault because everything is the internet's fault. But in this case, it actually is the internet's fault. And I know this because I was in the writing scene back when the internet first kind of blew up. And all of a sudden you had people writing books about writing and people writing blogs about writing. And then YouTube came around and you had people making videos about writing. Except they were all saying the same crap coming from that Snyder dude with his
Save the Cat
book.
Yeah.
Which I support saving cats, but I do not like this guy's book and I don't like this guy and he's a freaking... He writes like an asshole. But it's basically like you have to have the hero's journey. You have to have the 3-act plot or the 7-act plot structure or whatever. And it's just gotten to the point where writers especially feel like they have to hit these beats. And so what ends up happening for the most part, especially, and this is really, really bad in books, I think TV shows are actually breaking away from this a little bit more.
A little bit.
Or they do it in a way that it's like, okay, yeah, they still hit that plot point, but I care about the characters so much, and I enjoy watching it so much, that I don't really mind. Like, Has Been Hotel hits a lot of the plot points. But there's some other stuff that it breaks those plot points too. It goes outside that formula.
Same with like Digital Circus.
Right, yeah. Like, I don't know where Digital Circus is going right now, but I'm enjoying it more. I didn't really like the first episode because I didn't care about the characters. I thought Pomni was freaking annoying.
The whole point is, the first episode is just kind of introducing them, and now you've gotten more development with all of them.
Right, but I think Has-Been Hotel had a much more effective introduction of its characters.
Yeah.
Like, you kind of, at least I did, I kind of had to love Charlie from the get-go. Like, she was just so adorably delusional.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say, I was like, okay, I'm hooked. I want to see this chick try to open up a freaking hotel to redeem sinners in hell.
Yeah.
Come on,
that's a great premise.
Brilliant premise.
Yeah, great premise.
But so I think TV shows are doing better than books. But y'all, I'm in a crisis. I have not been able to finish a book except books written by Naomi Novik.
Read Worm, read Worm, read Worm.
It's online. It's hard for me to read online. My eyeballs.
I
work on computers all day.
God, I don't know when. I don't know when that guy is gonna release his book in print form. I really hope it's soon.
Well, when he does, you can get it for me. Until then, I might look at it, but I just don't know how much I'll be able to actually read and enjoy. Because reading online is
so good, though.
I know, but I spend 8 to 9 hours on the computer already, and I'm like,
You'll hear me throughout this podcast absolutely gush over Worm, which, if you guys don't know, Worm is a web serial created by, I believe, well, his online name is Wildbow. And he does a fantastic job writing something that I deeply care about the characters, and I have no idea where the hell it's going. I have no clue what I have no clue what he's planning for that. But he's written 2 web serials, both taking place in the same world, and it's fantastic. But I'll get into that more later on. But yeah, no, and I completely, the writing has just gotten so lazy. I picked up, what is that book?
The sad part is, though, I don't think it's not necessarily laziness. Like, I don't think writers in general could possibly be called lazy people.
Is it kind of like naive?
It's a ton of work. It's
naivete, a little bit.
Everyone's just been, I don't want to say programmed, because that sounds culty and weird, but everyone has been pushed into a box, basically. Everyone's been boxed into this certain system.
Coerced.
And not even coerced, but just, they've been hammered with the same stuff over and over and over and over
bullied?
Again from books.
Yeah.
A little bit.
A little bullied.
Books and from the internet, telling them that this is how you write a good story. This is how you write a good story. You go to take a creative writing class even, and as much as, which is hilarious because in college you're still very much focused on the literary genre, which no one outside of creative writing classes reads. Because it's garbage. But that stuff is at least, there's some experimental stuff going on there. It's just so up its own ass that no one in mainstream cares. But when it comes to mainstream, though, like, you're just getting hammered with this, with the Brandon Sanderson style writing advice.
Especially fantasy.
Especially fantasy. And, like, I have my issues with Brandon Sanderson as a writer. I just think...
You're gonna get a lot of people.
Oh, I know. He's got a huge following. And, like, don't get me wrong. I used to really like him. I loved Mistborn. And I liked the Mistborn spin-off afterwards with Wax and Wayne. Until I had to wait 3 or 4 years for a book to come out because he got distracted by bunnies. Other shiny objects. But... it was when
Bunnies?
Yes.
Is that real? Did he get distracted by bunny? Oh.
I don't know. His other books are the bunnies.
Okay.
His other story ideas are the bunnies. But when I read the Stormlight Archives, I read the first 3.5 books of that. And when I got into that 4th one, I just couldn't keep it going because I was like, Okay, this dude can only write about 5 types of characters, first of all. And they go through the same crap over and over and over again. Like, it's the same arc. Kaladin has had the same arc for 3 books running, and it's driving me crazy. And the humor in it is the exact same humor that you will go find in Mistborn with Kaladin, or not Kaladin, but, oh shoot, what's his name? No, he's my favorite character, Kelsier. Kelsier and his crew in the very first book. Same humor, same personalities, same character. Wax is another rehashing of Kelsier and Kaladin. He's like a mix of Kelsier and Kaladin, just this broody, oh, my life sucks, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, but, you know, the dude's very successful. I'm not saying he's not trying to tell you. Again, remember this. You can like stuff that I freaking hate, and it's fine. And I can hate stuff that you like, and it's not an insult to you.
No.
It shouldn't matter if I don't like Brandon Sanderson anymore. I used to love Brandon Sanderson. I can't read him now because it's just the same stuff. See, and this is what I'm getting into, though. It's the same thing over and over again because he follows his own advice. So, I mean, I'll say that for him. He takes his own advice, but he takes it to his detriment, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing new in those books anymore. And so people like him, though, just pump out this advice of, oh, this is how you structure a story. This is how you tell a story. This is how you whatever. And it's just gotten to the point where written entertainment specifically in the West, and when I say the West, mostly I'm talking about the United States and maybe a little bit the UK, because that's, you know, I have branched out into translated books, and I think French stuff can be super interesting. Which, go figure. It's the freaking French. Read. But everything starts with the French. Every bullshit thing starts in France, and I don't know why, but it does.
There's a great
book. But
book
sometimes they have good stuff, too.
that I have. I need to actually finish it, but it was really good, the first part that I read of it. It's called Wanted, I believe. It's a Japanese book, and it's about 4 female workers at a lunchbox packing plant. They work at a lunchbox packing plant. So not very good conditions, shit pay, and they all have their own personal lives that, you know, they have to go through. But they're kind of content working at this, you know, this packing plant. And one of them ends up killing her husband. And that happens in like the first few chapters. I'm not spoiling anything. But the rest of the book is these 4 middle-aged Japanese women getting thrusted into this world of the underground, like, Yakuza crime ring because they're trying to cover up the murder. And it is fantastic. Highly recommend it. It is so good. I need to finish it. But it's really good.
Cue the cell block tango.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a literally he had it coming storyline. But the characters in that are so endearing. And again, it's one of those books that is written in a way that I have no idea where it's going. It's not taking those same plot points. And this is another thing with manga and anime where they don't take those same plot points at all. It's a very different storytelling. Now, granted, anime and manga have their own tropes and cliches and story points that they hit, but they do it in a way that makes it where each time that they do hit those story points, it's never boring or like, oh, here we go again. Like,
well, I mean, some anime and manga are like it can be mediocre too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But there's a lot more of quality, I think, especially coming out of Japan. That's when
new?
We say Eastern. That's primarily what we consume as Japanese media.
I've watched one Korean thing, and it was pretty good, which is Parasite, which is a very good movie.
Well, wasn't
Old Boy is also Korean, which I need to watch.
The one where they're playing, I can't remember the title right now. I'm trying.
Squid Game?
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been in a hospital setting for 6 hours.
Yeah.
It also just
Squid Game is Korean as well. We never finished that though.
We didn't, but it was good.
Yeah.
Like, I liked it. I think we got distracted by other things.
Mm-hmm.
And also life just happened, and
we
kind of lost our ability
we need
to
watch that
for
one.
a while.
Maybe we can watch that one with Ryan.
Yeah, because it's a fun
with our
one.
brother.
Like, I really liked it, but like again, there's a really good example of, you know, Eastern media. Again, Eastern being primarily Japanese because that's just what we consume, but some Korean, even a little bit of Chinese stuff sprinkled in there too.
I watched the Three Kingdoms, which is basically a historical drama, and even though it's following the romance of the Three Kingdoms, if you're at all familiar with that, it's following it. It's still really well done.
Mm-hmm.
The character writing in it is really well done. I think they captured the characters very well from the romance of the Three Kingdoms. But yeah, like Chinese stuff is pretty good if you know where to look. And yeah, just Eastern storytelling, besides maybe Bollywood, is Bollywood's just batshit crazy, and I love it for that.
Bollywood can be hilarious.
Yeah, Bollywood can be some of the funniest stuff that you will ever watch. And I love it for that. So even then, they're doing something creative. They're doing something really wild and off the wall and fun, and people obviously watch it and eat it up because they keep making them. So like, there's obviously fan bases for all of these things.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like even when it is a little more, I guess, a little more formulaic. So like, if you take trying to think of a popular one. Like, if you take Demon Slayer to an extent,
mm-hmm.
it hits a lot of the shonen beats and the tropes and
mm-hmm.
like kind of what you would expect. I wish it were slower.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it was taking its time more. I think it's rushing it now, but yeah, like even with that though, I still enjoy the hell out of it because Japanese media in particular, the good stuff, does something that we're struggling to here in the West, which again all goes back to they build great, amazing characters that
mm-hmm.
you love almost immediately. I don't know how they do that. That's freaking like Oda, who writes One Piece.
It's a study that we need to.
Yeah, Oda, who writes One Piece, is the grand master of making you care about characters
that you met that episode
immediately.
Yeah,
yeah, and you're like, oh my god, I don't want anything to happen to this character.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you have such a foundation of connection, I think, an emotional investment that even if the story is a little more rote,
mm-hmm.
you don't care. And I think that's a big part of what Western media is missing. It's like, okay, so you want to tell,
her dog is staring at her right now.
She giving me a look. Oh, well, lie down, you sleepy. Lie down, sleepy. Don't you be blinking at me. But, what the hell was I saying? Like, I think that's what Western media is lacking in general, is that we put way too much emphasis on these plot beats that the character development, in my opinion, suffers to the point where, okay, you haven't given me characters to care about, and you're telling me a story I've already read 36 other times. I don't care, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give me characters that I really like, and you put them in a story that, okay, yeah, I mean, this is a little familiar, whatever,
mm-hmm.
I'm still gonna read it because I care what happens to them.
Yeah.
Now, is that how you hook everybody? No.
No.
People who like Fast and the Furious, you don't need to do that for them.
No. They like what they like, and that's fine.
Right. But I think those people have a lot to choose from right now, and people like me that
want a little something more.
Want some depth and want some connection to the characters.
Mm-hmm.
We are desperately underserved at the moment. So if
yeah.
you're a writer out there and you happen to hear this very messy episode of our podcast, keep that in mind. There is a market that is not being hit right now, and it's except for by Japanese anime for the most part and manga. And it is those of us who crave character-driven stories with a lot of emotional impact and resonance. And oh my god, what was that trailer that I saw? What was the trailer that was like, it like showed a couple of scenes and then it would be, oh god, what was it? It literally said emotionally resonant. And it said that about the show.
Oh, that was Thunderbolt.
Oh, is that what
yeah,
it was?
that was Thunderbolt.
I was like, if you have
where
to...
it said emotionally resonant. Now, I've heard really good things about Thunderbolts. I haven't watched it myself.
No, I haven't watched it, but I just feel like if you have to tell me that and you can't show me in the trailer, there is a problem. It either isn't in the story, or, and we've talked about this before, the people making the trailers freaking suck, which they do, because trailers
are awful.
In the West are atrocious.
Yeah.
But, when you're telling me something's emotionally resonant and then you show me some scenes and there's like no emotional resonance anywhere, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? If it's so emotionally resonant, pull something from the story and show that to me. But, so, anyway. I digress on that.
No, yeah. No, I mean, I think that'll kind of segue into the kind of big topic of this episode, which is what makes a good story. In my opinion, it's a lot of things.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. It's not an easy answer.
I see storytelling as a big stew, and it has a lot of ingredients that you put into it, and each ingredient you can taste individually, and that's what makes it come together fully into a really tasty dish. You gotta mix everything up, but the more you do that, the more resonant it will become. And one of the biggest things for me is character and story, and the kind of dance between those two. One can't overpower the other, and there needs to be a very good balance between the two. Now, granted, there are great, and it's funny because I feel like this actually works one way. It's not a two-way street. There can be great character only, without much of a plot, stories, quote unquote stories, right? The Amazing Digital Circus is a good example of this. Really interesting, deep characters that you're very fascinated into what makes them work and what makes them tick. And the plot is just kind of there. Like, it's not really anything too deep. They're stuck in a digital circus with no memory of their names, but memory of their lives, which is super interesting. And they don't remember what they look like. They don't remember what their names were. But they remember everything else from before they got put in there. And it's kind of just showing how each of these different characters cope with being stuck here and not being allowed to go back to their normal lives. And I find stories like that absolutely fascinating. I can watch... I love some of my favorite plays that I've ever been in or watched have been character-centric without much plot. A great one that I was in recently is I and You. If anyone out there has never seen I and You or read it, do yourself a favor and go and read it. It is one of my favorite plays ever. It's also one of my favorite plays that I've ever been in and performed. in, but it's a 2-person play, and it is great. And I have noticed that sort of story where it's character only is more prevalent in theater, is more prevalent in live theater rather than movies. And I feel like that's because there is a certain connection between the actors and the audience member, because you don't have a screen in your way, right? And everything is live. It's there in front of you. But I feel like we can do that with movies. It takes a little bit more work. It takes a little bit more effort than it does in live theater. But I feel like we can get there. I feel like storytelling is all about emotion, almost. They're emotionally driven. If you had a story that was only logically driven, 100% you'd have the most boring story that you've ever read in your life, because that's not what us as human beings, naturally kind of empathetic people, are drawn to. We're drawn to our emotions and drama and conflict. And, I feel like being just a good writer helps as well. In telling that story. You have to really work hard. And I know this now, trying to write my own book, and even just doing tabletop RPGs, and like just making up a story. You have to work hard to make people care about your characters and care about what's going on. And it all just kind of mixes together, and if it's all resonant and it works and it meshes well, I feel like that's what makes a good story. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of that. I think it's a combination of so many different things. I definitely, in my opinion, character is the number one thing that you have to nail, and if you miss that, you're in trouble. Now, there's, there are some exceptions. There's always going to be exceptions to pretty much everything we ever say. Really, really action-oriented movies. Like I mentioned, Fast and the Furious. Could you probably do that storyline? And this is coming from someone who's seen these movies in snippets. I've never sat down and watched one all the way through. But could you do that storyline with, like, another, similar but not quite the same type of character plugged into the main role, or really any of them? I mean, you're not there really for the characters. You're there for the fast cars and the fun scenes and the flashy...
The spectacle.
Yeah, the flashy spectacle and all of that. But for the most part, I think characters and the ability to make people care about what happens to them is probably... It's my top thing for what makes a good story. Beyond that, I think it's a combination of creativity, of risk-taking, and, of technical prowess, too. I mean, having been someone who's always been told, and this is not a flex, but has always been told since I was in the 5th grade what an amazing writer I am, you can be a really good writer and not be a great storyteller naturally. Yeah. That's a lot harder. You can write something pretty. I can write pretty stuff all the time. Yeah. Storytelling is so much harder than putting down words that sound nice. And so, especially when you're writing books, like, I don't know, I think a lot of people do get hung up on, well, is this sentence structured perfectly? Is it like the specimen of all sentences? And I'm like, well, that's who really cares at this point?
Also, that's your editor's job, honey.
Right, that is your editor's job. Which is a little tricky when you get into the indie world. Yeah. But we'll talk about that later, not today. But Yeah, no, it's emotional resonance, but it's also payoff too. I think the one piece of writing advice that Brandon Sanderson does give that I think pretty much applies regardless of what kind of story you're telling is you have to understand what kind of promises you're making to the audience when you start it, and you have to address those at some point.
Yeah.
You have to. You can. If you leave stuff hanging, people are gonna get pissed.
They're gonna notice.
What? Yes, people are gonna notice because they're not stupid.
Yeah.
And they're going to be annoyed, and there's just there's a lack of fulfillment and satisfaction. That's the word I want. There's a lack of satisfaction that comes when you're reading or watching something and you're expecting one thing to happen and then it just completely goes off the rails in another direction and the thing in the beginning is never addressed. That's why I have a personal problem with like genre swapping. It doesn't bother Dallan quite as much, but I have an issue with it. I do not like getting into a story that I think is going to be fantasy, and then it's, oh no, it's actually speculative modern day fiction or whatever. I think that's crap. I don't think you should do that. But yeah, you have to. And this gets into I mean, we're getting now a little bit into the whole debate of can anyone be a writer, and it's like, well,
I think with time and practice and effort, you can.
But again, you can be a good technical writer and still not be a very good storyteller.
Yeah.
Those are two completely different skill sets.
Yeah, but I feel like people can grow to become better storytellers.
No, you can develop. Yeah, it's just. But I think.
I don't think it's like something you're born with.
No, it's not something you're born with. But I do think it's something that you have a sense for just by virtue of not just reading and consuming a lot of entertainment, but the way that you read and consume it. You have to be super present and, aware, conscious. You have to consciously consume things and understand why you like things.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of start figuring out how to make them, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah. No, I think that mostly covers it. I know that's kind of a vague answer, but that's because there's just so much minutia to making a good story that it's really hard to parse it down.
Okay.
And pull out all the really little tiny things that you have to be doing.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite stories out there, like, that just hit all the right beats for you?
Hit everything?
Yeah.
Well, if we want to try to break this up so that we're hitting Western and Eastern. We'll save Eastern for later because that one's easy.
Yeah, that one's really easy.
For Western entertainment, it's mostly against stuff that kind of either older stuff. So Lord of the Rings is one of my all-time favorites. I also grew up on Harry Potter, and I love Harry Potter. To this day, I love it. I've reread it a few times recently, and I think J.K. Rowling really hit her stride in Prisoner of Azkaban, which is my favorite book. But then after that, the rest of them are pretty solid. I mean, they're not perfect, but they're good.
Then there's Chamber of Secrets.
They're fun.
That was her like flop.
Well, that was right before Prisoner of Azkaban. That was like, what the hell? And then Prisoner of Azkaban comes, and you're like, yes, okay, this is it. So there's those. Again, I really like a lot of things that have come from Naomi Novik lately. I love Spinning Silver. I think that's a really fun twist on an older fairy tale. I'm also reading right now the what was it called? The second book I think is The Last Graduate, but the first one was something else. What was it? Was it The Scholomance? Maybe it was called The Scholomance. I don't remember. I also like a lot of Neil Gaiman stuff. I love Graveyard Book. I love Neverwhere. It's probably one of my favorite books of his. So that's books. Movies, shows. you should have gone first.
Well, you
Like, I really enjoy, I mean, well, just, just stuff that I enjoy. I really enjoy, Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss. Hell of a Boss is, plot-wise, a freaking mess. But it's,
really big mess.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's fun. There's some episodes I don't
I still care about the characters.
Yeah, no, I definitely care about the characters. And I think the characters have gotten better as the story has gone on. But it's fun. Like, it's, so...
Yeah.
I'm not a story snob. I'm not someone that's gonna be like, oh well, that sucked about that thing.
Yeah,
like, I'm not the Frasier of story lovers. Like, if anyone understands that reference, that's one of my all-time favorite sitcoms. So I freaking love Frasier.
I do love Frasier.
If you want a master class in
like writing a sitcom,
or even just creating characters that by all rights no one should love, but everyone does end up loving them. I mean, they're the most pompous, self-absorbed
pair of brothers.
Yeah, like snobby dipshits in Seattle, but you friggin' love them. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
So there's that one. I really, for the most part, like the stuff that I've seen from Taylor Sheridan. So I like Yellowstone is pretty good, and I like Mayor of Kingstown. So
Mayor of Kingstown is excellent so far.
Excellent.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah, it's in it. It's good when it's really, really gritty, because usually super gritty stuff is not really my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I love Mayor of Kingstown.
Yeah.
And I love Jeremy Renner, so I mean, the fact that he's in it helps for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I already mentioned Lord of the Rings. And I like the Peter Jackson stuff as well. So any of you purists out there can just scree out.
She likes The Hobbit.
Want. I love The Hobbit.
And I love The Hobbit as well.
I love The Hobbit.
I don't know why everybody hates on The Hobbit so much.
It's mostly the purists that are just like, you should have just stuck to the book. And it's like, okay, go read the book. The friggin' battle at the very end lasts about 2 paragraphs. So I mean,
well, and also there's
really
a lot of waffling in that book, like, because it was meant to be a bedtime story for children,
it's a story
and
for
you
kids.
you can't adapt that well into a movie. I'm sorry,
no,
you can't.
Not with Lord of the Rings already having existed.
Having existed.
Yeah, because it just doesn't work. I mean, you have 13 dwarves in total.
Yeah,
and
I think
not a one of them gets any sort of character development throughout the whole book. They're barely there.
Yeah.
So like, don't even get me started on that. But anyway,
we'll talk about that in a different episode.
Again, this is an instance where I can admit that some of it is a little bit of a heaping. No, it's not. I wouldn't call it a dumpster fire. It's not a dumpster fire. There are messy parts of it.
But for the most part, is a wonderful trilogy.
Yes, it's
and
a great
like
trilogy.
does it have its flaws? Sure, but
y'all can bite me.
It puts a smile on my face. All right, like
exactly.
It's one of my like feel good trilogies of movies that I like to watch.
Yep. I also really like Hannibal.
Oh, Hannibal.
For some reason, I put that on, and it's like, yes. The world is okay. I don't know why watching a cannibal. It's just. I'm blanking on everybody's names tonight. The main actor.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Thank you. He's just amazing in that show. What else? That's what I can think of right now. That covers my Western stuff.
Okay. I'll give you a moment to think about Eastern.
Do that.
I'll do my Western stuff. I grew up on Warriors books, Warrior Cats books, which I recently went back and revisited those, and those hold up so well, not only as children's books, which they are, but they are they are so deep and layered and varied in terms of story, character, and world building that it blows my mind that those even exist. That a group of people were able to come together and like write something that just emotionally resonant in terms of those. And it's a silly it's one of the silliest like concepts. Like it's goofy. It's a bunch of wild cats out in the forest and they make hierarchies. And like when you really sit back and think about it, like why are they going to war? You don't really like know. Like it does, like that part doesn't really make sense, but like it's kind of more just like it's more about the characters and what they go through and how and all the conflicts that arise from that. And so growing up reading those books, I absolutely love them. And then that kind of introduced me to one of my favorite stories, probably of all time, which is Watership Down. Watership Down is an emotional gut punch in a lot of areas, but it is one of my favorite stories. It has one of my favorite cast of characters. It's got one of my favorite characters probably ever written in anything ever, which is Bigwig. Um, I yeah, like I love that story, and the fact that and this is true, the fact that guy that wrote that book literally wrote it because he would go on long car rides with his daughters and he had to come up with stories to entertain them. So he came up with the stories of these rabbits traveling and he would just come up with new chapters every time he got into a car with his daughters and he would just tell them a new chapter. And then that's how he got an idea for the book. So he just started adapting what he came up with off the top of his head into a solid book. And that's how he wrote Watership Down. And that's just, I love that because, again, bringing back what I said earlier, I love improv storytelling. It's one of my favorite types of storytelling. It's super underutilized because it's amazing what our minds can come up with off the top of our heads. Um, Another really great book series. I never finished it, but I loved the first 5 books that I've read of it. Is Wheel of Time. I love the characters. I love the world building. I love the story. It's something that I've never really read before, and it's something that I really haven't read since. It's super powerful, even though I've never finished it. And I really want to finish it one day when I have the freaking time to. But that's neither here nor there. Let's see, what other books have I read that I quite enjoy? I did read all of what is that one called? You've read it too. It's the really grim, dark fantasy book. Midnight Moon, or it's Garden on the Moon.
Yeah.
Gardens on the Moon.
Gardens of the Moon, I think.
Gardens of the Moon. Yeah.
I think.
I really like that one. That one was really good. That pretty much covers. I'm not a huge reader. I love reading, but I hardly have the time for it. Mm-hmm. And I have to be in a really good mindset to be like, I'm gonna sit down and stare at pages. You know, like I have to be in a really good mindset where like the silence isn't gonna bother me while I'm reading. I do listen to audiobooks though. I have been listening to the Harry Dresden books, which are very well done, and super, super good. The main character of Harry Dresden is such a unique protagonist, and I really love him, and he's super endearing. But then he also does something that I love in protagonist, which is he makes me mad. Mm-hmm. I like protagonists that frustrate me. I know that sounds weird, but I actually prefer when a protagonist kind of gets on my nerves at times. Like we'll get into this, but Luffy gets on my nerves at times, but in a good way. Like, oh my god, why are you doing that? Like, it's in a good way because it makes them feel real. To me, because I get frustrated with everybody. So like at a certain point, so like it just makes sense. If you make your characters too perfect, then I'm not gonna give a shit because they don't feel real to me. I think that kind of covers the books. In terms of movies and TV shows, like I said, Interstellar is one of my favorite movies. Fresh on my mind right now is 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later. Great, fantastic thriller movies that make you care about the characters right away. That's one that, like, as soon as Jim wakes up in that hospital room in 28 Days Later, I am immediately invested in what is going to happen to this guy. And same with any of the survivors that he meets. That one also, 28 Days Later, probably has one of my favorite antagonists that I've seen in a long time, in terms of writing. And then 28 Weeks Later, Jeremy Renner's character, which I am blanking on, I think it's Doyle. Doyle is a really great character in that. For as short of time that you were with him, I cared about what happened to him. I cared about him trying to get these people out of this situation and kind of like having to step up as the leader to get these people out of the situation, and going against all odds to save them. I really enjoyed that as well. Another, in terms of shows, I will always sing the praises of Daredevil, the first 3 seasons, and the first 2 seasons of Punisher, both of which are fantastic in character writing and storytelling as well. And it's something that Marvel has not really been able to capture since. Unfortunately, it was like lightning in a bottle. Those 2 shows, and I would also argue Jessica Jones as well. Kind of those 3 shows, they kind of just captured it, and they kind of let it go after Luke Cage came out and Iron Fist, and then they kind of lost it, unfortunately, and it never really has gotten to the point since. I like Daredevil Born Again, but it's not at that level of the first 3 seasons of that show. It's just not even comparable. It's like watching David and Goliath, but Goliath just completely bashes David's brains in. Like it's like just not even comparable in terms of quality. Another really great show that I love is Breaking Bad, and Better Call Saul and El Camino. That whole trilogy of shows / a movie is great, and really well done. Like Jordan said, I've only seen Mayor of Kingstown from Taylor Sheridan, and I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's really good. And I love grit. The more grit, the better. I love that shit. Like, I love people getting their hands broken and, like, just really disturbing content, but I've always kind of been into that sort of thing. Just because I like seeing that kind of being push the envelope sort of thing. Like, I like seeing that. It makes me more engaged in whatever is going on because the stakes are so much higher, because it's like, oh god, what are we gonna see this person go through? Which I enjoy that feeling of, like, constant tension. Like, I love it. And I think that pretty much covers my Western thing as well. I saw that you had a light bulb go off in your head, or while I was talking. What was it?
It just popped into my head while you were talking. But there's 2 others that I love. I also love Daredevil and Punisher. Those are great. Breaking Bad's fantastic, and that whole triptych of stories.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it that. But two of my other absolute favorites. I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So it's an older one. Freaking amazing. Say what you will about Joss Whedon, but he is a hell of a storyteller.
Yeah. And a character writer.
He's great. And then The Expanse is another one that I've watched that multiple times. I adore that show. It's pretty hardcore sci-fi, which again is usually not my thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like sci-fi. It's just I'm more of a fantasy person.
Yeah.
I like Star Wars, the original stuff. I love Lord of the Rings, but I love The Expanse. It's just so well done.
Yeah.
And I've read the books too, or at least some of them, and they're I think a good example of you can be a really good storyteller and be like not a mediocre writer, but like not a stellar writer, you know.
Yeah.
But they're really good. But anyway.
Yeah, no. Expanse is a good one.
Expanse is fantastic. I love the core crew.
Mm-hmm.
All of them. And I think that's another really good indicator of a good story is if you love the main character and you love the characters around the main character.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's hard to do because normally normally what ends up happening is you like the side character better or you like the comic relief character better or whatever. Because you're just more attached to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially comic relief characters.
Mm-hmm.
I think, there's that whole saying where if you can make someone laugh, you're already halfway into a relationship with them or whatever. Not necessarily a romantic relationship, but whatever
a friendship,
kind of relationship. Yeah. If you can make them laugh, like that is half the battle. You're halfway there. So I think that's why comic relief characters usually get a lot of love.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, in Expanse, I love all of them. Love Amos. Love Holden. Love Naomi. I love Alex.
Yeah.
It's been out for a few years.
Yeah. Well, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. Yeah. Alex.
It doesn't happen in the book, but it doesn't happen in the books, but it happens in the show. But
well, at least it hasn't happened in the books as far as I've read. I don't know.
I think it doesn't.
Really? Oh.
Yeah. I think that
I haven't gotten that far.
I think that was a major deviation in the show compared to the books.
But it was written by the same guys.
Yeah.
So,
I think it was something to do with the actor. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So, I think he had like other things he had to go do.
Okay.
At the time, but yeah, like I love The Expanse as well. That's a good one as well. I really like that. I also like my weird stories like Dark Crystal, Never Ending Story.
I love Never Ending Story. That was a good one.
I like those ones as well.
Yeah. All right. Let's do Eastern real quick, and then I'm getting hungry.
Okay. All right. Eastern, go.
Oh God, where do I even start? One Piece is probably my forever top.
Yeah.
I love that show. It's just it just makes you feel so warm and good inside. And I love the main characters. Zoro is my boy. I wanted to drop kick Sanji on the first watch through, but on the second watch through, I really liked him a lot more. I have an appreciation for him now.
After the later arcs.
After watching Whole Cake specifically.
Yeah.
And yes, my brother and I have watched it all the way through twice, and we're on the third.
Well, I'm on my fourth.
You're on your fourth, that's right. Yeah.
I'm on my fourth.
Technically 3.5. You stopped after what, Marineford?
No, I stopped after
Whole Cake?
During Whole Cake.
In the middle of Whole Cake, which is insane to me. I don't know how you did that. But anyway, so One Piece.
I stopped at the episode with Sanji crying in the rain.
Oh God,
that was the episode.
That's a rough episode to stop on.
That was the exact episode that I stopped in Whole Cake.
That is a rough episode to stop on.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are One Piece fanatics for sure. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is another one that I think that one's almost a masterclass in storytelling and in character building. I mean, if you want to go see how to put together a really good plot and a really good world, and really great characters.
With amazing characters.
Go watch that show.
Yeah.
Right now, if you somehow have not seen it yet.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Demon Slayer quite a bit. Like I said, I feel like the first couple of seasons were better than the recent ones have been. I think those ones have been a little rushed. I like the slower pacing that anime and manga usually take. I just think it gives stories room to breathe.
Yeah.
Which on that note, Frieren Beyond Journey's End is excellent.
Yeah.
And I love it. What else? We watched so much. Dorora's really good.
I haven't finished that one.
I got to, again, if you know, you know. I got to that episode and had to stop. And so we're gonna try a second watch through and see if I can get all the way to the end. There are certain things that it will get to me to a point where I have to walk away from it for a while. But it's one of those anime though that has just stuck with me.
Yeah, the visuals and the
visuals, the characters,
the content.
that I remember, and that episode was a double.
No, that episode is kind of burned into your memory after you watch it.
And what's funny is it's not the part that most people would think it is. It's the part that it should be. It's when Hyakumaru gets his voice back.
Yeah.
At the same exact moment that something horrible happens.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my god. Nope. Steins Gate is one that I feel like no one really knows about or ever talks about. But I love it because
it is in my opinion one of the perfect anime.
It is.
It's like there's
so
no hole, there's no flaw to it.
No.
It's
and there's really no fluff. I mean, there's no excess either. It's a very tightly written anime. Everything in there has a point. You may not see that point until a little later, but everything in there has a point. And Okabe is hilarious as a protagonist.
Yeah.
What are some other? I feel like you and I should just kind of riff on this part because
I mean, I really enjoyed Attack on Titan.
Attack on Titan's really good.
Attack on Titan is fantastic. I know a lot of people don't like the ending of Attack on Titan, but to both Jordan and I, it fit.
I think
perfectly.
It fit perfectly. It's exactly how it would have gone.
Yeah, it's exactly like, in my opinion, the only way you can finish that show.
I think anything else would have felt like a cop out.
Exactly.
It would have felt like it would have felt like the author lost all spine and courage and turned into oh crap, I can't give people the sad ending. I gotta give them the good ending. So here you go. I mean, it would have felt like a cop out. Any other ending would have felt disingenuous. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. You're good. No, it would have felt a little disingenuous.
That ending was hard baked into it from the beginning.
Oh yeah, no, I think he wrote it backwards.
Well, even if he didn't, it was still the way you set it up. It was hard baked into it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Eren wanted to kill all the monsters from the very beginning, and that is eventually what he sets out to do. It's just his definition of monster expands. That's all that happens.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that happens.
Yeah.
Is he expands his definition of monsters and enemies.
And Attack on Titan and Dororo are kind of what I mean when I say I love kind of grit and dark stories and very lethal stories, because there are plenty of characters that die in both of those shows that you really come to care about, and they sometimes die in really horrible ways, but it makes that heartbreak when they do die even more horrifying because of the way that they go out.
See, and I like grit and darkness too, but for me, if it's a story with no hope in it anywhere, I can't do it. So Vinland Saga is another one we've been watching, and I really, really like it.
Yeah.
It's I'm kind of waiting to see if there's any sort of light that starts to break through in it. Because right now it's very, very dark, and seems kind kind of hopeless. But we haven't gotten that far in it.
Yeah,
So.
I've heard. Yeah,
But it's really good.
It's
Vinland
some
Saga is
people's
so good.
favorite, favorite show.
I don't think I could do Berserker
See,
for that reason because
Berserk?
it's just Berserk, yeah, 'cause it's just too.
I've read the first volume of Berserk. I have it around here somewhere in one of the tubs, and it is fantastic. It is the type of dark fantasy that I love, which is just good people do good things, but there's always a bastard behind it. And I really like that sort of storytelling. I'm a big fan of there's no good guys. In my stories, where you have your protagonist, and Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul and all of those are good examples of this. Wherever everyone is human, because humans are selfish and humans are greedy, and they will take what they can get, and given opportunities, they will do some messed up shit to get what they want. And Berserk is the pinnacle for me of that. But also it's just got really, really great character writing, really great world building, and the development of Guts as he goes through this world is so deep and layered and varied. So I love Berserk. I wish that we would get an actual good anime of it.
Good luck. Godspeed to you on that.
They've tried multiple times and it's just never worked. And then one that I want to bring up is Naruto.
This is the prime example of you're allowed to like stuff that's garbage.
Yeah. I mean, Naruto I wouldn't put into garbage territory.
Oh, by the end it's there. It slowly sinks into the refuse.
But it's certainly flawed. It is greatly so.
What?
Yeah, especially the more that it goes on. It is a deeply flawed story. People like to say that it's the most perfect anime that they've ever watched, and that's just...
Who says that?
I've seen many people on Reddit say that is their all-time favorite anime. It will always stay on a pedestal. And I think it's just nostalgia bias, but that's okay.
No,
I have nostalgia bias towards shows as well that I know were bad.
Come on, people. Admit that it sucks, and you like it anyway. It's okay.
Yeah, we can do a whole episode on Naruto and its problems.
I like Naruto too. Fun.
No, it's fine until
it's a raging hot dumpster fire.
Until after Pain, and then it's awful after that.
Well, it's okay for a little bit. And
yeah.
then it's the Tobi to Madara to Obito to a different Madara.
Yeah.
To aliens. And it's like, what are you doing? And the 50 billion convoluted ways that he tells Itachi's backstory to try to make him not a villain. And it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And it's... Naruto fandom is weird, and we'll get into that, about how they latch on to characters that have 5 minutes of screen time, and I don't know why, but they do. Sasori for some reason is one of the most popular Naruto characters ever. I'm I can barely remember Sasori Uchiha. What did he even do? What did he even accomplish? Besides being Itachi's best friend that he kills. That's it. What else is there to say about Sasori Uchiha?
That Sasori was, the dude that kills Gaara.
No.
That's Sasori.
That's not
right?
Sasori.
Itachi's best friend, right?
Yeah.
No, because Sasori is the
Is it
guy
Sasura? I think it might be Sasura.
Okay.
Yeah, Sasura Uchiha.
I can't remember. I don't even remember the character.
Yeah, and he's there. But he's one of the most popular characters in Naruto, and he's And the funny thing is he's also one of the most freaking important characters in Naruto because he's the one that fucking developed that goddamn Sharingan thing that they use all the time.
Guy. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like Naruto is hilarious when you when you look at it, but the first part of it is really good and really well done, and he was on to something. Mm-hmm. He was really on to something, and then I don't know what happened. He had an aneurysm, and just things went off the rails. But yeah, that's pretty much what this podcast is gonna be. It's gonna be a lot of rambling between Jordan and I, which I mean that's what podcasts are. So
we'll get more,
especially improv podcasts that don't have a script.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
Clearly,
freeform, I think, is what they call it. But that is not only what this channel is going to be. I have pretty much left it open to be whatever we can come up with at the time. Like Jordan, I know has maybe some projects that she might want to do, video projects, vlogs, maybe like a story, like a writing advice series, whatever she wants to do with it. And we're also going to be doing video games, let's plays on this channel as well, where it's going to be called just like basically plot pilled plays is going to be the name. PPP is going to be the name of which is also the name of the podcast, but plot pilled plays, which is going to be basically Jordan and I playing through a story focused video game and kind of just talking about the story as we play through it, which I've always kind of wanted to do. I've done something similar to that for years now, but having someone along with me will probably make it a little easier to do, having someone to bounce off of. And then there is also a kind of a shameless plug that I want to do. I have a YouTube channel. Its name is Glitter with an exclamation point. And I also have a Twitch, and I will be trying to live stream most nights in the future. Right now, it's going to be mainly weekends, for that's all that I can afford. But hopefully, later down the line, I'll be able to do every nightly streams, which will be great and fantastic. And I've found that I've actually really loved it, so that's just kind of a plug for me, and links will be down in the description for both of those. But yeah, if you guys have a topic or anything that you'd like us to talk about, we do have our email, the plot pilled plot. Oh my god, the plot pilled plot. The plot pilled podcast at gmail.com. That's plotpilledpodcast@gmail.com. The plotpilledpodcast @gmail.com.
Say that
again. Yeah, I'm getting used to it. The more I say it, the more I'll get used to it. But yeah, I hope that you guys enjoyed this first episode, introductory episode of the Plot Pilled Podcast, and we hope to see you more. Yep. All right, bye.
See ya.